Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are on day 5 of the traditional Christmas Carol, and we're diving into probably the most famous line of the entire song.
5 golden rings.
5 golden rings, exactly.
It's such a remarkable transition in the song, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, for 4 straight days, the gifts are all living things. They're organic. You get partridges, turtle doves, French hens.
Calling birds, all alive.
And then, bam, day 5 hits. And the pattern just breaks completely. We shift to material wealth.
And it feels like that signals a move, away from the physical world into something else, something more permanent, maybe even sacred.
Well, that's what the sources suggest. These aren't just 5 pieces of luxury jewelry.
Not at all.
They're powerful emblems. They represent a covenant, and they pull their meaning from these deep traditions of spiritual eternity and fraternal unity.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? We're going to unpack all of that.
That's the plan. We'll get into the symbolic language of the circle, the incorruptible nature of gold, and the huge importance of the number 5.
And we're going to show how these rings connect directly to a central doctrine, something called the 5 points of fellowship.
Which is essentially a moral mandate disguised as a gift. It's like an instruction manual for brotherhood, all wrapped in gold.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the most basic thing, the object itself. The ring, a perfect, unbroken circle. What's the symbolic weight there? I mean, something with no beginning and no end.
It's the ultimate symbol of the infinite. I mean, the circle is one of the oldest philosophical symbols we have as a species.
Right.
It just naturally speaks to concepts like unity, wholeness, unbreakable bonds.
You see it everywhere historically.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the marriage band. It's an eternal covenant. Or a king's crown, which uses circular forms to suggest perpetual rule, divine right.
And it wasn't just sacred, it also carried real practical authority. I'm thinking of, like, signet rings in ancient Rome.
Yes, or the rings worn by members of medieval guilds.
They weren't just decoration.
Not at all. They were your ID. They were proof of authority, of being part of an unbroken tradition.
And all of that history feeds into its esoteric meaning.
It does. While a physical ring might not be, on display in every single ritual, its symbolism is everywhere. It's unavoidable.
How so?
Well, think about the movement of an initiate through the degrees. It's often cyclical. You're journeying from ignorance back to light. It's a circle.
Ah, okay. Or even visual symbols like the blazing star, which is often shown inside a circle of light.
Exactly. The ring, the circle, it represents the final goal. Wholeness, an unbreakable link to truth and light.
But then we have to talk about the material. It's not just a ring.
It's a golden ring.
And that immediately adds this whole other alchemical dimension.
That distinction is so vital. Gold is unique. It's the metal of the sun. And chemically, it's incorruptible. It resists decay. It resists tarnish.
Right.
So in Hermetic teachings, which influenced so much of Western esoteric thought, alchemy wasn't really about turning lead into physical gold.
That was a metaphor.
It was a metaphor for spiritual transformation.
The great work.
The great work, exactly. Spiritual gold is the purified soul. It's that ultimate state of enlightenment you achieve through, rigorous self-discipline.
So when the song says 5 golden rings, it's sending symbols of an eternal covenant that are also divinely perfect, incorruptible.
Precisely. This bond is meant to elevate the spirit, not just, seal some worldly promise.
Okay, so the circle is eternity. The gold is perfection. Now we get to the number that ties it all together, 5. Why 5? Why is that number so charged in this tradition?
5 is a key, an architectural and geometric key. It has immense weight, both practically and philosophically.
You see it in the winding staircase.
You do. When the fellowcraft goes up the staircase, the steps are in groups of 3, 5, and 7. And that set of 5 is explicitly tied to structure, to perfected intellectual work.
And the sources connect that directly to the 5 orders of architecture. We hear the names, Tuscan, Doric, Ionic.
Corinthian and composite, yes.
But what do they really signify here?
They signify order, proportion, moral stability. Think about it. Architecture is the art of giving perfect, stable form to raw materials. Each of those orders represents a step up in refinement, in complexity.
From the simple strength of the Tuscan to the, intricate perfection of the composite?
Right. So to associate the number 5 with those orders is to link the building of the human spiritual project, with the calculated stability of a grand temple.
You're building a moral structure.
A moral structure that's meant to last. But even beyond architecture, 5 is almost universally seen as the number of humanity itself.
Which immediately brings to mind that classic image of the Vitruvian Man.
It's directly from that tradition, the human body, right?
Yeah.
2 arms, 2 legs, the head, 5 extremities. It fits perfectly inside a pentagram. It defines our geometry within the cosmos.
So 5 is both man and something else. The sources talk about it being a mediator.
Yes, that's a fascinating concept.
A liminal number.
It is. So 4 gives you the square, stability, the earth. 6 often gives you the hexagon, representing heavenly perfection.
And 5 is in between.
5 is right in the middle. It's dynamic. It represents life and action, movement. It's humanity's ability to connect the physical world to the divine. It's the balance point.
And it's at this very point, this dynamic balance, that all the symbolism comes together.
It converges.
The number 5 and the eternal circle meet in the 3rd degree's central teaching, the 5 points of fellowship.
And this is where all that abstract geometry becomes a lived moral duty.
No longer just theory.
No, the 5 points are the active principles. They are the practical, the physical, and the spiritual actions that are required for real fraternal unity.
So the 5 golden rings become symbols of these 5 unbreakable principles.
Forming a continuous, sacred circle of commitment, a chain that binds brethren together.
Let's walk through them, because they're essentially a concrete instruction manual for what this golden covenant demands in real life.
Okay. We start with the most direct physical expression of support, hand to hand.
Yeah.
This is the literal sign of mutual support, of assistance. You are there to lift your brother up, to give strength when it is most needed. And the key word there is mutual.
Okay. And the next point, foot to foot, takes that support and adds, what? Service, immediacy.
It adds readiness to act. It's the promise to go on foot, to travel immediately to help a brother, no matter the inconvenience or distance. It's service without hesitation.
Then the 3rd point shifts things, knee to knee. We're moving from the physical to the spiritual realm.
We are. This denotes prayer, spiritual support. It's the commitment to ask for divine favor and strength on your brother's behalf. It's an admission that our own strength isn't always enough.
An act of humility.
A profound act of humility and dedication, yes.
Then we move inward to the bonds of trust, breast to breast.
This is all about shared secrets, deep confidence, and the sacred trust that has to exist. It speaks to the integrity you need to hold someone else's confidence, their vulnerabilities safely.
It makes the lodge a place of absolute safety.
And truth. And then finally, the 5th point, which is about the transfer of wisdom, cheek to cheek, or as it's sometimes called, mouth to ear.
What does that represent?
It's about intimate communication, the quiet, careful transmission of sacred knowledge. It teaches the virtue of silence, of knowing when to speak and when not to.
Discretion.
The golden rule of discretion. You only pass wisdom to those who are prepared for it.
So, if you put it all together, physical support, readiness to serve, prayer, sacred trust, and discreet wisdom, the 5 golden rings are the links of this incredible chain.
A chain binding souls in a fraternity that is designed to go beyond this life.
And that idea of transcendence brings us right back to the circle and the gold.
It does. If you look at the bigger picture, the ring represents the eternal lodge.
Tell us a bit more about that concept, the eternal lodge. How does that change the meaning of these 5 commitments?
Well, the idea of a celestial lodge above suggests that brethren who have passed on, they continue their work in light.
So the work doesn't end.
The work doesn't end. And the rings, being that perfect unbroken circle, are a constant reminder that the fellowship you forge on earth isn't bound by time or mortality.
Death doesn't break the bond.
It just changes the location of the labor.
And the gold, then, reinforces the permanence of that virtue. It's the incorruptible reward.
It is. It alludes to that eternal reward promised for a virtuous life lived in service. The bonds you make through the 5 points, they're not temporary. If you labor in truth, those bonds, gilded by your service, aren't severed at the grave.
They're a promise of continuity, of reunion.
Exactly.
I found it interesting that the sources refer to the number 5 here as reflecting quintessence.
Ah, yes. Aether.
That mysterious 5th element, the one the ancients thought held the whole universe together.
That is the perfect way to understand its function here. The 5 golden rings are doing the same job, just morally and spiritually. They're the invisible, incorruptible glue holding the whole structure of the brotherhood together.
And you can actually map each of those points of fellowship to a specific virtue.
You can. Each one corresponds to a virtue that's required to achieve that state of spiritual gold.
And this mapping, I think, is what brings it all down from academic study to personal action.
Right.
So how does each point line up with a virtue you have to embody?
Okay, so the hand requires the virtue of the labor of charity.
Yeah.
Active, physical giving.
Okay.
The foot demands the journey of service. You have to be willing to move out of your comfort zone to help.
Makes sense.
The knee needs the humility of prayer, acknowledging that you depend on a higher power.
And the two inward points.
Breast to breast requires the incredibly difficult virtue of fidelity of truth. That means unwavering honesty and loyalty to a sacred trust.
And the last one?
Mouth to ear. That requires maybe the highest virtue of all, the discretion of wisdom. Knowing when to speak, how to speak, and crucially, when to just be silent.
And these 5 principles, when you live them out, they become the tools for purification.
That's the idea. The goal is to refine the self into that state of gold, to become worthy of the inner chamber of the eternal lodge.
And this is where the call to action is. Something I think most people miss when they're just singing the carol.
It's so easy to miss. The gold has to be refined by fire. These are not abstract ideas you just admire from a distance.
Right.
The rings only stay golden if you polish them every day through service, if they're tested by real-world struggle, if you're dedicated to your obligations.
So the real question is whether you, the individual, are actually laboring in a state of gold, or if you're letting your principles tarnish in the shadows.
That's the test.
So what does this all mean for us when we hear that song this Christmas? The 5 golden rings are so much more than an expensive gift.
They're a symbolic mandate, a reminder of a deep commitment to spiritual work, to incorruptibility, and to the absolute highest standard of fraternal unity.
And they prompt you, the listener, to think about your own integrity, the bonds of fellowship that you keep in your own life.
Are you extending your strength? Are you safeguarding trust with real fidelity? Are you an unbreakable link in your own chain of virtue?
The sources seem to be reminding us that we're all called to be these rings of light.
Binding together our sacred commitments with the day-to-day reality of our actions.
And there's a final humbling thought from the sources that really focuses on stewardship. This golden chain of virtue, the one represented by the rings. We inherited it. We didn't forge it ourselves.
And that inheritance comes with a profound obligation. The real challenge isn't just to maintain the chain while it's in our care.
It's more than that.
So much more. The real work is to live in such a way, to serve with such fidelity and discretion, that we prove ourselves worthy of that sacred inheritance for the people who come after us.
Are we polishing the gold, making sure it reflects the light?
Or are we letting our obligations tarnish through neglect? That, in the end, is the continuous daily test that's embedded in the 5 golden rings.